You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
Struggling to secure on-prem apps with modern identity? Don't worry, you're not alone. Join industry leaders from Fortune 500 organizations to secure your apps on any cloud with any IDP, regardless of your environment's complexity. Meet Strata's identity orchestration platform, Mavericks. Say goodbye to the headaches of app refactoring and legacy tech debt. With identity orchestration, you can modernize legacy apps to use MFA or passwordless authentication in a few weeks, migrate from one IDP to another, and so much more without changing the app. No matter your IAM use case, Strata extends the value of your current identity investments. And the best part? You can try it for free today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire to share your biggest identity challenge, and they'll hook you up with a complimentary pair of AirPods Pro. Don't miss out. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. That's strata.io/cyberwire. The FBI takes down ALPHV BlackCat. Comcast reveals the breach of nearly 36 million Xfinity customers. Microsoft and the Cyberspace Solarium Commission release water sector security report. Malware increasingly uses public infrastructure. Iran's Seedworm and its telco targets. QR code scams. The feds release a joint analysis of 2022 election integrity. A joint advisory on Play ransomware group. In today's Mr. Security Answer Person, John Pescatore considers the risks of AI. Rick Howard talks with Lauren Brennan of GuidePoint Security about evaluating and maturing your SOC. And Iranian gas stations are running on empty. It's Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. The U.S. Department of Justice, in collaboration with international partners from Germany, Australia, the EU, and the UK, has confirmed the takedown of a leak site operated by the ALPHV BlackCat ransomware group. This ransomware-as-a-service gang faced a significant disruption, with the FBI playing a key role in developing a decryption tool that has aided over 500 victims. Victims are encouraged to seek further assistance from the Department of Justice. The FBI's seizure of the site is displayed on a splash page, indicating the ongoing coordinated law enforcement action. This takedown also features the U.S. State Department's Rewards for Justice program, hinting that efforts to apprehend the group members continue. Despite this action, experts like Michael McPherson of ReliaQuest caution that such takedowns typically result in only temporary disruptions. Ransomware groups often reemerge, sometimes rebranding and restructuring from remnants of other criminal organizations. ALPHV itself is thought to have originated from groups like DarkSide, Black Matter, and REvil. Therefore, while the takedown is a significant hit to the ransomware ecosystem, it may not completely eradicate the threat posed by ALPHV and similar groups. Comcast has revealed that a critical security flaw dubbed Citrix Bleed in Citrix networking devices led to the breach of nearly 36 million Xfinity customers' sensitive data. This vulnerability has been exploited by hackers since August, with Citrix releasing patches in early October. Despite this, many organizations, including Xfinity, failed to patch in time. The breach at Xfinity, Comcast's cable TV and internet division, occurred between October 16th and 19th, but was only detected on October 25th. By November 16th, it was clear that customer data, including usernames, hashed passwords, contact information, dates of birth, partial social security numbers, and secret questions and answers, had been accessed. The extent of the breach, which potentially affects most of Comcast's over 32 million broadband customers, is still being evaluated. Comcast has not disclosed specific details regarding ransom demands or regulatory filings. The company insists there's no evidence of customer data leakage or attacks on customers. Xfinity is now urging customers to reset their passwords and recommends using two-factor or multi-factor authentication. Microsoft and the Cyberspace Solarium Commission have released a report addressing cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the water and wastewater sector. The report, based on expert roundtables, highlights significant cybersecurity gaps and resource deficiencies. Key recommendations include increased funding and support for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, expansion of existing federal programs, and enhanced public-private partnerships. The report emphasizes the importance of robust collaboration across sectors and levels of government. It also recommends public-private research on water system security and international norms to deter state-sponsored cyber attacks. The report notes the critical role of water systems in various sectors and underlines the need for a comprehensive, collaborative approach to cybersecurity. Additionally, Microsoft, CRI, and FDD have initiated a cybersecurity pilot program for small and medium-sized water utilities to bolster defenses in this vital infrastructure sector. Researchers at Reversing Labs have discovered two novel malware campaigns exploiting GitHub in previously unseen ways. The first campaign used GitHub Guests to host second-stage malware payloads, disguised as network proxying libraries in PyPy packages. These packages contained base64 encoded strings that pointed to secret Guests. The second campaign, likely from the same perpetrator, utilized Git command messages to relay malware commands. These methods of using GitHub for command and control infrastructure, particularly through Guests and common messages, are new and undocumented in prior reports. The similar execution techniques and the abuse of uncommon GitHub features in both campaigns suggests the same malware author is responsible for these attacks. Researchers at Symantec warn that the Iranian cyber espionage group Seedworm, also known as Muddy Water, is actively targeting telecommunications organizations in Egypt, Sudan, and Tanzania. Seedworm, known for its interest in the telecom sector, is notably focusing on African organizations in this campaign. While Seedworm has previously targeted African entities, its primary focus has generally been on the Middle East. The group's attention to an organization in Egypt is particularly significant due to Egypt's proximity to Israel, a frequent target of Seedworm's activities. Netcraft reports a recent phishing attack where attackers used a fake multi-factor authentication notification, seemingly from Microsoft, to deceive recipients. The notification included a QR code which, when scanned, redirected users to a credential harvesting site. The attackers cleverly exploited the common association of QR codes with setting up two-factor authentication. Victims were tricked into entering their Microsoft credentials on the phishing site, thereby compromising their login information. A joint analysis by the DOJ, FBI, DHS, and CISA found no evidence that foreign government-affiliated actors compromised the 2022 U.S. federal elections' integrity or security. The declassified report acknowledges that actors linked to Russia and China engaged in cyber activities targeting the election. Russian-affiliated hacktivists conducted a DDoS attack on a state election office's website, while Chinese-linked actors scanned state government websites and gathered publicly available voter information. However, these activities did not impact voting processes, change votes, disrupt vote tallying or transmission, alter voting technology, or compromise voter registration or ballots. The U.S. intelligence community had previously assessed the difficulty for foreign actors to manipulate elections at a scale undetected. A separate ODNI report indicates that China, Russia, Iran, and others tried to influence voting and undermine confidence in U.S. institutions and elections, focusing on voter persuasion and opinion rather than election integrity. In a joint advisory, the US FBI, CISA, and Australia's ASD report that the Play ransomware group has launched around 300 attacks globally since June 2022, focusing on businesses and critical infrastructure. This group, known for its double extortion method, exfiltrates and encrypts data, demanding ransoms in cryptocurrency. Play's techniques include exploiting public-facing applications, abusing valid accounts, and using services like RDP and VPN. To combat these threats, the advisory recommends implementing effective data recovery plans, enforcing strong password protocols, using multi-factor authentication, regularly updating systems, segmenting networks, and continuously monitoring and filtering network traffic. Additionally, it suggests validating security measures against frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK for Enterprise. Coming up after the break, Mr. Security Answer Person John Pescatore considers the risk of AI. Rick Howard talks with Lauren Brennan of GuidePoint Security about evaluating and maturing your SOC. Stay with us. It's that time of year to start thinking about your New Year's resolutions and what you're hoping to achieve next year. As you start setting those 2024 goals, professional certifications should be part of your plan. Starting today, N2K is offering our full catalog of certification practice tests for just $39 each. Choose from our extensive library of certification titles from leading vendors like AWS, CompTIA, Microsoft, Cisco, and more. With over 25 years of experience in exam preparation, N2K has helped hundreds of thousands of security students and professionals feel exam ready. Visit n2k.com/certify to view our practice tests and get started today. That's n2k.com/certify. From dozens of spreadsheets and screenshots to fragmented tools and manual security reviews, managing the requirements for modern compliance and security programs is increasingly challenging. Vanta is the leading trust management platform that helps you centralize your efforts to establish trust and enable growth across your organization. Over 6,000 companies partner with Vanta to automate compliance, strengthen security posture, streamline security reviews, and reduce third-party risk. CyberWire Daily listeners can get $1,000 off Vanta by going to vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber. With over 8,000 threat hunters analyzing over 65 trillion signals daily, Microsoft works tirelessly with the federal government to keep our nation's data secure. This 30-plus year partnership is driving mission innovation that is secure by design. Whether optimizing your existing defenses or tackling advanced threats with AI, Microsoft gives you the intelligence and the automation you need to defend at mission scale. Let's work together to stay ahead of emerging threats and secure your mission anywhere. Learn more at aka.ms/fedcyber. That's aka.ms/fedcyber.
Mr.
Security Answer
Person. Mr.
Security Answer
Person.
Hi, I'm John Pescatore, Mr. Security Answer Person. Our listener question for today's episode: earlier this year, you put generative AI use by bad guys at the peak of overinflated expectations on a hype cycle, and its use by good guys just starting off from the trigger point. Things seem to be moving quickly with AI. What is your feeling about that positioning for early 2024? Analysts always hate when people check up on their predictions. First, a short definition for those not familiar with Gartner hype cycles, which Gartner started in 1995 and were one of the more fun Gartner research notes I did over my 14 years there. A Gartner hype cycle tracks and predicts technology issues from inception or trigger point to peak of overinflated expectations down into the trough of disillusionment, then up the slope of enlightenment, for some, not all, to reach the plateau of productivity. I think what I predicted has been pretty accurate. Where I screwed up was in what I left out. What I said about AI was, from a cybersecurity perspective, there are two major things to think about in relation to artificial intelligence. One, how will it be used against us? But also, two, how can we use it against the bad guys? What I should have listed as number one risk to think about was, how will we misuse and misadminister business use of generative AI to cause self-inflicted wounds? Many businesses and some government agencies move rapidly to use new technologies, and out of the box, every new technology is riddled with vulnerabilities and insecure default choices. In September, Microsoft, the 13th largest company on Earth who was betting their future on AI, gave us an example of that. Microsoft accidentally exposed 38 terabytes of private data on the company's AI GitHub repository. The sensitive data was made public when Microsoft published a bucket of open source training data that also included a disk backup of 2 former employees' workstations containing secrets, keys, passwords, and over 30,000 internal Teams messages. The exposure was enabled by an overly permissive shared access signature or SAS token on Azure that made sharing easier but unfortunately ignored need-to-know common sense security rules. Oops! Before I go on, take a second to splash some cold water on your face. I'm going to use a sleep-inducing term, governance. Data is the main ingredient for AI to provide value. Business mission use of AI requires governance processes to be in place to make sure that AI data does not expose business and customer information, as well as to provide transparency to enable trust in the output of the AI models. Still with me? I may use a few other snoozer terms like risk and compliance, so keep that cold water handy. In 2008, the global financial crisis was caused by widespread use of financial models that claimed to enable creation of low-risk financial instruments known as derivatives. Unfortunately, no one really understood what the models were creating, and it turned out that often low risk meant really high risk, just not the highest possible risk. Back then in the U.S., the Securities and Exchange Commission issued requirements that all such models be audited. And in 2023, the SEC did the same for any business use of AI models that might have meaningful impact on the business's bottom line, including the use of artificial intelligence or machine learning models in security controls being used to reduce risk. Essentially, governance and transparency are now required by law, thus the compliance term coming into play. A good place to get started on thinking through AI governance is NIST Trustworthy and Responsible AI Resource Center and the NIST Risk Management Framework. If your organization is a Gartner client, they have also put out some very useful tools. I'm sticking with my original prediction that in February 2024, we will probably not be using generative AI to send our significant others Valentine's Day messages. But I will add a prediction. Through year-end 2024, more business damage from AI will be caused by self-inflicted wounds than by attacker use of AI.
Mr.
Security answer.
On that note, happy holidays, and thanks for listening. I'm John Pescatore, Mr. Security Answer Person.
Mr.
Security answer.
Person.
That is John Pescatore, Mr. Security Answer Person.
Back in October, the MITRE Corporation hosted the AttackCon 4.0 conference at their company headquarters in McLean, Virginia. I got to sit down with Lauren Brennan, the team lead for SOC optimization at GuidePoint Security, after she gave her keynote at the conference. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to her was the fact that here she is, a young, relatively junior member to the InfoSec community, just 3 years now, and she's standing up in front of this MITRE ATT&CK crowd. You know the types, and I include myself among them, grumpy, seasoned professionals who have seen it all, done it all, and a bag of chips. It takes a lot to impress this group. And Lauren knocked it out of the park. Now, a lot of newbies ask me how to break into cybersecurity, and I always tell them to start networking right now. And one of the ways to do that is to present at conferences. Pick a topic and make your case. And Lauren delivered that in spades. I started out by asking her about the speaking experience.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out. We're sitting here at the MITRE ATT&CK 4.0 conference, right? And you gave your very first security presentation. Is that right?
Yes.
How was that?
Oh, it was fantastic. I was a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, still a little bit nervous. Still nerves are still coming down. But I mean, everybody here was so welcoming. I mean, it was so, nobody here was giving me any sort of you're doing bad kind of look. Everybody was just so encouraging. And that was
Well, I sat through the
fantastic.
presentation. I told you before, but I wanted to tell everybody here, right? I couldn't believe it was your first presentation in front of a big crowd like that.
Thank you.
It was a lot of poise, a lot of great information. You did fantastic. So
I really appreciate
good job.
that.
But we want to talk about applying MITRE ATT&CK to SOC operations, right? In kind of the current state, because you've been doing this for a while now, and MITRE ATT&CK's been going on for over 10 years. But I have this feeling that the community is kind of stuck in things we did 2 or 3 years ago. We really haven't progressed that far. I shouldn't have front-loaded that question that way, right? But my question is, do you feel like SOCs really utilize the MITRE ATT&CK framework to their best ability?
No. And so
I don't think so either.
and I think that they don't use it because I don't think that they see all the areas that the MITRE ATT&CK framework can be applied. So, and I talked about this in my talk is, I consider, there's 4 pillars that I consider of a SOC. You have your operations, your procedures, your tooling, and your collaborations. Almost everybody applies the MITRE ATT&CK framework to your tooling, to your detections, to your tooling. However, it can be really, really helpful to apply it to these other pillars. If you apply it to your operations, it can help you identify the broad level threats, the behaviors that you're looking for. It can help you when you're determining your mission for your SOC. If you apply it to your procedures, it can help you connect the dots between your procedures and your technology. So having...
It's a way to tell the story.
It's a way to tell the story. And then finally, it can provide the language that you need to do to talk with the other business units, the other leaders, people who might not understand all of what you're doing day to day in your SOC to, it can give you that structured language to talk with them about it, in your collaborative activities across. So while I see a lot of SOCs applying it to their tooling, not a lot of them apply it to other aspects. And so that's really where I want to see the MITRE ATT&CK framework being utilized more is in the non-technology specific spaces.
So you can let it out of the cage, right? You can
Yes.
talk to business leaders about the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and it's okay, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's not something we should protect and be precious
Yes,
about.
and I mean, and it is, it is a very, very technical framework. Like there's a lot of detail in it. It's very technical. There's tons of techniques. You can go into a lot of depth with it, but it's also very easy to lift that detail up and to be visual with it, to showcase it. So being able to visually just show your leadership, this is where we are now, this is where we have some gaps, and this is how we want to get to that, new end state is very important. And the MITRE ATT&CK framework can help you do that in a very structured way because it is really easy to understand from a definition perspective of what each thing is doing and what each technique and tactic and what the goals are and the procedures. And you can then take that and translate that more visually, lift up the technical aspect, lift up the in-the-weeds details of it to talk to your leadership, to talk to somebody. I mean, I was able to explain my talk and give my talk to my mom 2 days ago, when I was practicing for this, and she didn't really understand MITRE ATT&CK framework. And then I was able to kind of explain to her what it was. And she was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so she got the visual aspect of it. She got it. Even if she didn't understand the details, she still got what I was trying to do in the end state that I was trying to talk about.
Listeners of this show know that I'm a giant fan of the MITRE ATT&CK framework, but I do have some nitpicks about it, right?
Yes.
And I would like it to get better, okay? And the reason I think it's a fantastic idea is it changed our mindset, about how to protect the enterprise, right? As opposed to just being passive and doing defensive operations that would affect any kind of adversary. The MITRE ATT&CK framework allows us to speak the same language, like you said in your talk, about how very specific adversaries attack their victims. And if you know that they do 10 things on their campaign, wouldn't it make sense that we should block all 10 things and try to defeat the adversary and not just defeat the tools that any kind of adversary? I guess the question is, why is it hard?
So I think there are a couple areas here. So one, there is just so much to the framework. You have to sift through it. You have to understand. You have to know your own systems really well in order to be able to identify kind of some of the techniques.
Better than the bad guys.
Better than the bad guy. And so I didn't really touch on it in my talk. I mean, I could have done a whole talk about, one of the foundational activities is what do you have in your system? What are your assets? Have you done an asset inventory? So that's a big part of it, is knowing your systems better than the adversary. And that takes time and that takes effort. How to actually disseminate the information from threat reports that makes it actionable for your SOC to be able to build new detections for is hard. Well, how do I look at that information and be able to apply it to my SOC? If it's hard for, to determine what the audience is, it's hard to pull out that information.
Well, perfect. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
And congratulations on your first presentation at a security conference. It's fantastic.
Thank you. This is also my very first podcast.
Well, there you go.
So it's a lot of firsts for me today. Hopefully I did
well. You can go home and take the rest of the year off, I'm thinking, okay, because you've pretty much done it all right here today. All right.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That was Lauren Brennan, the team lead for SOC optimization at GuidePoint Security. Hey everybody, Rick here. Have I got a deal for you? On Tuesday, December 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be hosting the N2K Quarterly Analyst Call, which is normally reserved for our pro subscribers. But since it's the holidays, I've convinced the boss to open it up to the public. You're welcome. My guests will be my good friend Merritt Bear, the field CISO at Lacework, and Carolyn Wong, the Chief Strategy Officer at Cobalt.io. We picked the top 3 news stories from the past 90 days that will likely have the most impact to the InfoSec community in the near future, and then we will debate just why they are so important. It's going to be a blast. Register today by visiting the CyberWire, all one word, .com/analyst call, all one word. That's the CyberWire.com/analyst call. And I hope to see you there. And from the folks here at N2K, happy holidays.
And now, a word from our sponsor. The Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute is currently seeking qualified applicants for its innovative Master of Science in Security Informatics degree program. Study alongside world-class interdisciplinary experts and gain unparalleled educational, research, and professional experience in information security and assurance. Interested U.S. citizens should consider the NSF's Scholarship for Service program, or the DoD's Cyber Scholarship program. Both scholarships cover tuition and provide more than $30,000 in an additional annual stipend. Apply for these scholarships to start in the fall semester at cs.jhu.edu/MSSI.
And finally, on Monday, a cyber attack, initially reported as a software problem, disabled about 70% of Iran's gasoline stations. Iran's oil minister, Javad Aouji, confirmed the incident as a cyber attack, while Iranian media pointed fingers at Predatory Sparrow, a group allegedly linked to Israel. Predatory Sparrow has a notable history of regional cyber operations. The group claimed responsibility for the attack on their Telegram channel, stating it was in response to the aggression of the Islamic Republic and its proxies. They had previously warned of consequences for Iran's actions. The attack targeted gas station point-of-sale systems, payment systems, and central servers. Iranian gas distributors are now resorting to manual backups to mitigate the disruption. It looks like predatory Sparrow decided to give Iran a lesson in fueling tensions. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K and podcasts like the CyberWire are part of the daily intelligence routine of many of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, as well as the critical security teams supporting the Fortune 500 and many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. Learn more at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Irvin. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producers are Jennifer Iben and Brandon Karp. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.